The second piece is the custom agent. Let's just take a look at the proposal agent that I have created. So the initial piece here will help users or employees decide what agent to use when they're starting the document workflows.
Just quickly, so your best practice, you'd say, as if you were getting started with document agents, you would upload the slides first, like the way it will be visually represented. So you've got like a really good visual identity, and then you would start your agent.
Yes.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. I prefer to do it this way because you get the intelligence already from the layouts, and many of the times it's so well orchestrated on its own that I don't even have to instruct the agent to be very specific back. In this section, you should use this layout, because the agent will just know. Yeah. And so it's easier for me to then quickly test visually to see, and then see if I need to fine tune.
Okay, let's take a look.
Let's take a look. The most important piece, or one of the most important pieces, is the agent instructions. That's what makes custom agent a custom agent, right? This is where you're grounded in the role. I said you're an expert in creating presentations for this company, you're creating proposals, and there's also information about what a best practice proposal looks like, the type of information that it should prefer or avoid. This is where you would also put your non-negotiable. So if you're worried that your agent is going to come up with it or hallucinate some information, you can be very specific in the instructions itself and say, do not populate this section, or do not populate, let's say, pricing table unless you've been provided information about it.
Okay. What could be some non-negotiables other than, because I'm thinking, why would you tell an agent not to do something, and why would it if you didn't?
Well, pricing was a very good example, because we really don't want to get it wrong, right? So if you've not provided context about certain information, you would inherently create more work for the employee at hand to then go and validate that information. And that's also, again, the hidden cost that we talked about. When you use a generic tool or something that is not customized for you, it will do its best to create as complete of a document as possible, but at the cost of you having to verify everything by hand. So rather than you inferring that cost to your employees, you just want to make sure that the section is included so they remember to fill it out. But if they haven't provided the context, they know that this is their next step. So you're also, again, helping a junior employee get started and knowing that, I need to talk about pricing. So next time you talk to the client, you can bring that conversation up, so you know that section can be populated in your document.
Gotcha. So we've got a proposal name, we've got the description for the users, we've got the instructions.
And then the juicy part, the outline. I would call the presentation outline pretty much the brain of the document agent, because it kind of all, if you were to think about it with octopus, the outline is where it connects all the pieces together. This is where you define the structure of the document. So we have the cover, it's exactly what we've gotten, and the agent will not compromise on that. So we have the cover, the executive summary, and all of the sections that I wanted. The beautiful thing here is overall that you can be as flexible as you want it to be, or as prescriptive as you'd like it to be.
And I see there's an option there. It says at the top, let the agent, like the AI, decide the outline. And then the other option is create a fixed outline, which you're doing here. Exactly. So in the document agent, the universal, we saw it create the outline itself. And in the demo you showed on the custom agent, that was exactly, it was strict and it followed this exact one. And this is what you're configuring now, right?
Precisely. And it goes even a little bit further than that. You can combine both. So you can still, even in the predefined outline or a section, you can still combine an AI-generated content with pre-made content. So let me just get you to that example. When we talked about, for example, the case study, right? So we were studying the section with a divider, which is AI-generated. And then, because I already have a repository of pre-approved case studies in Templafy library, all I needed to do is specify the type of the folder that it needs to look in. And I really don't have to be a prompting expert to tell the agent what it needs to do. Look at how basic this is. Select the appropriate case study based on the industry of a client. It can be as simple as that. And the agent will understand and pull it together for you. Since the case study was already predetermined or pre-selected by the user, that's why I said it will be provided to you by the user.
Fantastic. It's really simple. And that's what you talked about before about, that triangle again. It's that content that already exists. It's the knowledge that already exists. It's the data that already exists, and you're just connecting the dots.
Exactly. Maybe one last thing here, just to also show how the content slash knowledge is being pulled into it. I show the example of the industry context, right?
Yeah.
So here we have the industry context. Again, it's AI generated. I've only told the agent, in this case, what kind of layout it should use, because I wanted to make sure that it's visualized in a chart. I didn't have to do it. Likely agent would have been able to figure it out for me. But if I don't want to leave it to chance, I can be a little bit more prescriptive.
Yeah.
And then I only pointed out that you should use industry context knowledge collection to pull the right content in. Again, very simple. And the knowledge is actually part of the settings page where I have my knowledge sources added.
Oh, fantastic.
These can be, connected to Glean. They could come from SharePoint. A lot of people have a lot of knowledge residing in SharePoint. It could actually even be an LLM that can fetch information from your organization that can pull the knowledge in. I like to make it split it out a little bit, because then you eliminate the risk of hallucination, right? If you give it a very specific knowledge piece or a folder to look into and then retain that knowledge or retrieve that knowledge, it's more likely to get the right context as opposed to having to scout through a myriad of documents or sections.